My favorite one would be Rain and Blood because it was the first one. I'm talking about Mustaine. Mustaine is a very interesting person. My favorite one would be Rain and Blood because it was the first one. I'm talking about Mustaine. Mustaine is a very interesting person.
I think we were friendly rivals. You know, I would always want to get, as soon as it hit, Megadeth's record, Anthrax record.
And if you're a headline, you want to make sure you top everybody else in front of you.
What if I told you that one of metal's biggest legends has been keeping a secret for decades? A secret about why some of the most famous rockers in the world simply refuse to work with Dave Mustaine, the mastermind behind Megadeth. Today, we're diving deep into the words of Tom Araya, the voice of Slayer, and what he finally revealed about the man who was once kicked out of Metallica and went on to create one of the most successful thrash metal bands of all time. This isn't just another story about band drama. This is about respect, trust, and the invisible walls that can build up between musicians over years of competition and conflict. So buckle up, because what Tom Araya had to say might change how you see Dave Mustaine forever. Let's start with the basics. Dave Mustaine is undeniably one of the most talented guitarists and songwriters in metal history. The man created Megadeth after getting kicked out of Metallica back in 1983, and he turned that rejection into pure musical fuel. Albums like Peace Sells and Rust in Peace are considered absolute masterpieces. But talent doesn't always equal likability. In the tight-knit world of metal, your reputation can make or break relationships that last for decades. Tom Araya, the legendary bassist and vocalist of Slayer, has worked alongside Dave Mustaine countless times over the years. They've toured together, played the same festivals, and been part of what fans call the Big Four of thrash metal, alongside Metallica and Anthrax. But behind the scenes, things weren't always as friendly as they appeared on stage. In various interviews over the years, Tom Araya has been surprisingly honest about his feelings toward Dave Mustaine. And when you piece together his comments, a clear picture emerges of why so many musicians in the metal community have kept their distance from a Megadeth frontman. The first thing Tom Araya pointed out was Dave's personality. In a brutally honest interview, Araya said something that sent shockwaves to the metal community. He admitted that while Dave Mustaine comes across as a nice guy on the surface, he always keeps his guard up around him. Think about that for a moment. This is coming from Tom Araya, a man who has spent over 4 decades in the metal scene, working with some of the most intense and sometimes difficult personalities in music. For him to say he keeps his guard up around someone speaks volumes. But why would Tom feel this way? What is it about Dave Mustaine that makes even his peers in the metal world feel uncomfortable? The answer lies in a pattern of behavior that has followed Dave throughout his entire career. Let's go back to the beginning. Dave Mustaine's story with rejection started early. Getting kicked out of Metallica wasn't just about his drinking or his attitude, though those were definitely factors. According to various band members who were there, Dave had a way of creating tension wherever he went. He was incredibly talented, but he also had this need to be in control, to be the leader, even when he wasn't officially the leader of the band. James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich have spoken about how Dave would try to take charge during Metallica's early days. While they appreciated his musical contributions, they found his personality exhausting. He was argumentative, he was unpredictable, and he had this way of making everything about himself. These aren't just random accusations from bitter ex-bandmates. This is a pattern that would repeat itself throughout Dave's career. When Dave formed Megadeth, he had complete control, which seemed to solve the problem at first. But even within his own band, there were issues. Megadeth went through more lineup changes than almost any other major metal band. Talented musicians would join, contribute to incredible albums, and then leave. Some left due to personal issues or creative differences, but others left because of Dave's management style and personality. Tom Araya witnessed this pattern firsthand during the many times Slayer and Megadeth toured together. He saw how Dave interacted with his own band members, how he treated crew members, and how he conducted himself in professional situations. And what Tom saw made him uncomfortable. In one particularly revealing interview, Tom talked about how Dave Mustaine seemed to have this need to be the center of attention, even when he was sharing the stage with other legendary bands. During the Big Four tours, which brought together Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax, there were supposed to be moments of unity and mutual respect. But according to Tom, Dave often seemed more interested in settling old scores and proving points than in celebrating the music that brought them all together. Tom also noticed how Dave would talk about other musicians, both in private conversations and in interviews. There was always an undertone of competition, of needing to prove that he was better, that he had been wronged, that he deserved more recognition. This isn't the kind of energy that encourages collaboration or friendship in the music world. But the problems went deeper than just personality clashes. Tom Araya also pointed out that Dave Mustaine had a reputation for being unreliable in professional situations. There were instances where plans would change at the last minute, where commitments wouldn't be honored, or where Dave's personal issues would interfere with band business. In the music industry, your word is your bond. When musicians can't trust you to follow through on your commitments, they stop wanting to work with you. This reputation spread throughout the metal community like wildfire. Musicians talk to each other, and when multiple people have similar experiences with someone, that information gets shared. It's not that there was some official blacklist against Dave Mustaine, but there was definitely an informal understanding among many metal musicians that working with him could be complicated. Tom Araya was particularly bothered by what he saw as Dave's inability to let go of past grievances. Even decades after being kicked out of Metallica, Dave would still bring up the subject in interviews, still seem bitter about what had happened, still seemed to be fighting battles that everyone else had moved on from. For Tom, this was a red flag. Musicians who can't move past old conflicts tend to create new conflicts wherever they go. There was also the issue of Dave's political views and outspoken nature. While many metal musicians have strong opinions about various topics, Dave had a way of expressing his views that often put people off. He would make statements that seemed designed to provoke reactions rather than foster meaningful discussions. This made many musicians uncomfortable about being associated with him, especially during times when the metal community was trying to present a more united front. Tom Araya also mentioned that Dave seemed to have trouble with the concept of equality among peers. In the metal world, there's usually a mutual respect among established bands, even if they're competing for the same audiences. But Dave often seemed to view other bands as either beneath him or as obstacles to overcome, rather than as fellow artists working in the same genre. The situation became even more complicated during the Big Four tours. These events were supposed to be celebrations of thrash metal history, bringing together the four bands that had defined the genre in the 1980s. But according to Tom, the dynamics between the bands were often tense, and much of that tension centered around Dave Mustaine's behavior and attitude. Tom specifically mentioned that there were times when Dave would try to upstage the other bands, or when he would make comments that seemed designed to create drama rather than celebrate the music. This wasn't the kind of professional behavior that encouraged other musicians to want to work with him on future projects. But perhaps the most telling thing Tom Araya revealed was his observation about how Dave Mustaine treated people who couldn't do anything for him. Tom noticed that Dave would be charming and friendly with industry executives, journalists, and influential musicians, but would be dismissive or even rude to crew members, opening bands, or fans who weren't considered important enough to matter. This kind of behavior reveals someone's true character, and it didn't paint Dave in a flattering light. Tom also talked about how Dave seemed to view every interaction as a transaction, rather than building genuine friendships or professional relationships based on mutual respect. Dave appeared to be constantly calculating what he could gain from each person he met. This transactional approach to relationships made many musicians uncomfortable and reluctant to get too close. There were also practical concerns about working with Dave. Tom mentioned that Dave had a reputation for being difficult during recording sessions and tours. He would be demanding about things that other musicians considered minor. He would change his mind frequently about important decisions, and he would sometimes create unnecessary drama that would affect everyone involved in a project. The cumulative effect of all these behaviors was that many musicians in the metal community simply decided it was easier to avoid working with Dave Mustaine altogether. It wasn't that they necessarily disliked him as a person, and they certainly respected his musical abilities. But the potential headaches and complications that came with working with him outweighed the benefits for many artists. Tom Araya's revelations help explain why. Despite Dave Mustaine's incredible talent and success, he has often seemed isolated within the metal community. While bands like Metallica, Slayer, and Anthrax have maintained friendships and collaborative relationships over the decades. Dave has often been on the outside looking in. This isolation has likely contributed to some of Dave's behavior patterns. When you feel like you're constantly having to prove yourself or defend your position, it can create a cycle where you become more defensive and difficult to work with, which then makes people want to avoid you even more. But it's important to note that this story isn't entirely one-sided. Dave Mustaine has created some of the most innovative and influential metal music of all time. Megadeth's albums have inspired countless musicians and fans around the world. Dave's perfectionism and high standards, while sometimes difficult to deal with personally, have resulted in musical excellence that few can match. Tom Araya also acknowledged Dave's musical talents and contributions to the metal genre. The criticism wasn't about Dave's abilities as a musician, but about his interpersonal skills and professional behavior. These are two different things, and it's possible to respect someone's artistry while finding their personality challenging. The situation has evolved over the years. As Dave has gotten older, some people in the metal community have noted that he seems to have mellowed somewhat. He's dealt with serious health issues, including a cancer diagnosis, which may have given him a different perspective on life and relationships. Some musicians who had previously avoided working with him have been more open to collaboration in recent years. However, the damage to his reputation within the metal community has been lasting. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild, especially in a relatively small community like the metal world where everyone knows everyone else's business. Tom Araya's willingness to speak openly about these issues provides valuable insight into how the music industry really works behind the scenes. It's not just about talent and creativity, although those are obviously important. It's also about being someone that others want to work with, someone who can be trusted to be professional and respectful in collaborative situations. For fans of metal music, this story offers a sobering reminder that our musical heroes are human beings with all the complexities and flaws that come with being human. Dave Mustaine's struggles with interpersonal relationships don't diminish his musical achievements, but they do help explain some of the career patterns and industry relationships that fans might have wondered about over the years. The metal community has always prided itself on being a family, a group of musicians and fans who support each other through thick and thin. But like any family, there are sometimes members who struggle to get along with others, who create tension even when they don't mean to, who find themselves on the outside despite their talents and contributions. Dave Mustaine's story is ultimately a cautionary tale about the importance of treating people with respect and building genuine relationships based on mutual trust and understanding. No matter how talented you are, no matter how successful you become, your reputation and relationships will always matter in an industry that depends on collaboration and mutual support. Tom Araya's revelations don't just explain why some rockers refuse to work with Dave Mustaine. They also provide a masterclass in how to navigate the complex world of professional relationships in the music industry. By speaking honestly but not maliciously about his experiences, Tom demonstrates a kind of straightforward, respectful communication that builds trust and maintains professional relationships over decades. As we wrap up this deep dive into one of metal's most complicated relationships, it's worth remembering that every story has multiple sides. Dave Mustaine might have his own perspective on these events, and his fans certainly have their own opinions about his behavior and career. But Tom Araya's insights provide a valuable window into the behind-the-scenes dynamics that shape the music we love. The next time you listen to a Megadeth album or watch Dave Mustaine perform, you might find yourself thinking about the human story behind the music. And the next time you hear about conflicts between musicians or wonder why certain collaborations never happen, you'll have a better understanding of how personal relationships and professional reputations can shape entire careers. What do you think about Tom Araya's revelations? Have you noticed similar patterns in Dave Mustaine's career and relationships? Do you think Dave deserves another chance to rebuild his reputation in the metal community? Or do you believe that some bridges are burned forever? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this deep dive into metal history opened your eyes to something new, don't forget to show your support by hitting that like button. Share this video with fellow metalheads who might be interested in the real stories behind their favorite bands. And make sure to subscribe to stay updated on all the latest revelations and stories from the world of heavy music. There are so many more secrets and untold stories waiting to be explored, and I can't wait to share them with you. Until next time, keep the metal alive, and remember that sometimes the most interesting stories happen when the music stops and real life begins.